What's up, everybody? This is the Sports Leak Podcast. Back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Dean back on the show. Good to have you, Dean.
Yeah, thanks for having me back again, Alex.
Absolutely. It's always great to have you on the show. And this is, another week of college football, uh, week 5 preview episode, and we'll talk about week 4 as well. And, each week we're getting more and more into the heart of this college football season, and it's getting more and more fun and bigger and more meaningful games every week, huh?
Yeah, we talked about it last week about looking forward to this one, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah, so many good games, and and let's get started on it. So Thursday night, you've talked a little bit. We've talked about Georgia State. They're out to a 4-0 start. They're in the Sun Belt Conference. They're doing pretty good, at least in their own conference, and they get their first conference win.
Yeah, and I think that'll continue. They're a pretty good team, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we'll see if Georgia State's one of those teams that can like punch up and maybe knock off a legit team one of these weeks if they play them.
It's a possibility. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Um, let's go Friday night. Wisconsin beats Purdue 38-17. Good bounce back win for Wisconsin. Um, NC State beats Virginia. Man, Virginia 0-4 this season. They can't figure it out, can they?
No, they're stumbling all over themselves.
Yeah.
Although NC State's a pretty good team.
Yeah. And I think the NC State quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, transferred from Virginia to NC State. So
Yeah,
he comes back and beats his old team.
yeah, that's something.
Yeah. That's always cool.
Yeah.
Uh, Boise State gets a win. Air Force stays undefeated. How about Air Force undefeated so far?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Air Force yet.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to seeing the military academies doing that well.
Yeah. But a good start to the season at least. I think they're 4-0.
Yes.
Um, so good, good start. Let's get into Saturday. Georgia beats UAB 49-21. So Georgia stays undefeated. Michigan blows out Rutgers. We talked about this last week about how Rutgers was undefeated going into that game. So we were kind of hoping it was going to be a decent matchup, but Michigan blows them out 31-7. And Michigan hasn't really had any slip ups yet. They look pretty dominant so far.
Yeah, and the way that game started, Rutgers scored first,
Okay.
and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 31 unanswered points.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just kind of took over.
Yeah. Texas blows out Baylor 38-6. Baylor hasn't been very good this year, up and down, but they get blown out. Texas looks legit. Texas is handling their business. They beat Bama. Maybe we'll see Texas in the playoffs.
They have a way to do it, but obviously they got to keep winning. They got a big
Hmm.
one coming up next week.
Yeah. Um, who they play next week?
Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah, that's a good matchup. Both teams ranked, both teams undefeated. So
Yeah, right.
good test for Texas there. They should win that, but go prove it. Go get a big win.
Yes.
How about Florida State? They beat Clemson in overtime. They were on upset alert for quite a bit of this game, and they've survived back-to-back scares now, back-to-back weeks against Boston College and now Clemson. Are you concerned about Florida State because of the scares, or as long as they get the wins, who cares? How do you feel about Florida State?
Well, it's always good to win.
Yeah, most
So,
important. Yeah,
if you get a scare from Clemson, I don't know that that's uh, a fearful scare. That was
yeah,
that was more of a concern. I think Florida State legit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so that squeaking out that win, um, I think that just adds to the positivity of Florida State.
Yeah, I agree. They haven't beat Clemson in a while, right?
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. And they did that was in Death Valley, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
actually, yeah,
it was very meaningful.
yeah. How do you feel about Clemson? So Clemson lost to Duke, and now they lose this game at home. I think this says more about Clemson than it does Florida State.
Well, yeah, but let's put a little uh, asterisk on
After,
that, okay?
yeah,
Because Clemson has lost to two undefeated teams.
yeah, that's true. Good point.
So, so I mean, you can't really say, "Oh, Clemson's in the dumps." They
Hmm.
lost to two good teams,
Yeah,
so Clemson's not a bad team.
yeah, that's true. Week one, we were kind of like hating on Clemson, like, you can't lose to Duke like that, but Duke's undefeated at this point, so maybe they are a good team.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm still not really certain about Duke yet, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, your two losses are to two undefeated teams.
Yeah, it's a good point. Excellent point. USC wins, kind of a hard fought battle against Arizona State, 42-28, and I think the game was closer than the score indicates. You know, we talked about it week one, even, when we were previewing the season, USC's defense is still a little bit of a concern, and they allowed Arizona State to stay in this game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, that's still my main concern with USC is the
yeah,
defense.
yeah. And as of right now, when you look at the Pac-12, Dean, how do you see USC as the best team? I mean, Washington has looked great and Oregon's looked great. I mean, I've heard some people say that they have both those teams ahead of USC.
Uh, the numbers do,
Yeah, yeah,
but that's because of who they played. That's not nothing to do with what you think or what you feel.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I just think that uh, Oregon and Washington both they have defenses. So, I just think those two teams are actually better overall
Mm-hmm.
than USC.
Yeah. And we'll see. The cool thing is we'll get to it'll all figure itself out in that conference.
Yes.
But yeah, interesting start to the season going in. Everyone had USC so high up there, but the rest of that conference is looking pretty good too. And Utah as well, once they finally get Cam Rising back, you know, to be undefeated without Cam Rising is impressive, very
It
impressive for
is.
Utah. Yeah.
Yes. And they,
So,
they beat an undefeated UCLA. So,
yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the big game of the weekend. Ohio State goes into South Bend, a great game, and it comes down to the final play. 17-14 Ohio State. Notre Dame, in my opinion, they had missed opportunities that really cost them in this game. Two turnovers on downs, a missed field goal, and then allowing the biggest play of the game. Notre Dame had this win, and they allowed that 3rd and 19 conversion with like 15 seconds left.
yeah, without having my bias uh, hat on,
Yeah.
I would say that Ohio State took took advantage of every opportunity
Hmm.
pretty much, and Notre Dame didn't.
Yeah.
Just like you said, um, I still think Notre Dame was the better team overall.
Yeah.
They just didn't get it done,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they really flunked there to end.
Yeah. not only that 3rd and 19, but then at the 1 yard line, right? And if you're a playoff championship level defense, you have to make that stop there at the 1.
Well, if you had all 11 guys out there, maybe you would have.
Yeah,
They were short a man.
really, on that final play?
Yeah, they had 10 players out there.
Wow.
And the thing of it is, everybody says, well, they should have called timeout. Well, I don't think they had any more timeouts.
Yeah,
But one, but you needed a timeout to get that other guy out there.
yeah,
You didn't have time to run anybody out there. So my feeling was, why don't you just go offside,
yeah,
and touch the other player and get a
yeah,
penalty, and they'll move it 3 inches, and then you get your guy in there.
yeah. That's a good
So
point.
that's a coaching error in my point. I just think that's coaching.
Yeah. D- Uh,
So I mean,
yeah.
that's not to say that if you had the other guy that you would have stopped him,
hmm
but that would have made it a little more possible.
Do you think Marcus Freeman, being a young coach, could have played a role in that? Like, not a ton of experience in big games or whatever, and heat of the moment.
I'm not sure anybody noticed that they were short a guy.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, I didn't at first either.
Yeah,
Although it looked like a weak side when you looked at it.
yeah,
That side of the defense didn't look like there was enough,
yeah,
and that's the direction they went. But
yep.
I don't think anybody realized that they were down a guy.
It's crazy.
So I
Um,
mean, that you're shooting yourself in the foot. And you're going to lose ball games when you do things like that.
yeah, and then I mean, and then the 3rd and 19, like most defenses, you got to make that stop there. And
Yeah,
to credit Ohio State, a hell of a throw by Kyle McCord to convert that.
absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
I really look at it as kudos to Ohio State.
hmm
Um, and if there'd have been a stop there at the goal line, and then Notre Dame would be getting all the praise in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the other hand, you got to give Ohio State theirs.
Yeah,
They scored.
game of inches, right? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, um,
But that's not a bad loss for Notre
yeah,
Dame.
yeah,
I mean, they still have a way, I think, to get into the playoffs because they got three undefeated teams right in a row they're playing.
yeah.
So all they got to do is run the schedule,
hmm
and they could be right back in the thick of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
One loss by the way they lost it by like 1 yard. You can bounce back from that, absolutely.
absolutely, yeah.
So,
So what they
um,
do next week is going to be very important.
yeah, absolutely. And you can't dwell on this game and allow this game to bring you down and not be prepared for the next game against the undefeated Duke. You got to put this game behind you and go get a statement win, right?
Yes.
Um, how do you feel? How did you feel about the 2 turnovers on downs? I mean, you're not an analytics guy. That has to really frustrate you, doesn't it?
Well, the one where the quarterback uh, was short on the sidelines, if all you had to do is reach the ball out,
Yeah,
he didn't do that,
yeah.
or something. I mean, it was it was too casual for me.
Yeah, why are you going out of bounds? Put your shoulder and go up the field.
Right. You
Yeah,
have to have that first down.
yeah,
Yeah, that to me was the key mistake.
yeah. Early in the game, because it was a low scoring, grind it out first half, especially.
Yeah.
Um, got to be a frustrating game. I caught the end of that, out at in South Bend at the bar, and I mean, the atmosphere was crazy. First of
I can
all,
imagine.
yeah,
Yes.
the first bar I wanted to go to, Brothers, was there was like 20 cops and fire department and everybody out there. You couldn't even get to the bar, so we said screw that one. But an awesome night. and a ton of good football. And it sucks that Notre Dame, like we said, game of inches, and sometimes you lose a game like that, And credit to Ohio State for converting 3rd and 19, for getting the 1 yard when they had to have it with a second left. And,
Yeah,
we'll see if Notre Dame can bounce back.
yeah.
Um,
The Big Ten is going to be interesting. I'm not sure who the better team is yet.
yeah, three really powerhouses over there in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, let's talk Penn State. They had a big game against undefeated Iowa, and statement win, shutout, 31-0 in Happy Valley, the whiteout, and they just took it to Iowa, who was supposed to have a better quarterback, a better offense this year. Penn State's defense was nasty in this game, huh?
They sure were. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're being talked about as being a potential Big Ten champion,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of what you expect them to go out there and do.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody expected them to shut them out. I do think they expected them to win,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a statement.
Yes, it is. And we just last night we had former Penn State wide receiver OJ McDuffie on the show, on our NFL show, and he's very confident. He was at that game. He said he's feeling great about their defense and their run game, and he says they're going to be a playoff team this year. So he's got, keep an eye on Penn State. He's got a lot of confidence in this team, and rightfully so based on that performance.
Yeah, no, I haven't looked at their schedule. I don't know who else Penn State plays.
Yeah,
But,
I
I mean,
can
I
pull it
I don't
up.
know right offhand whether they will meet Ohio State or Michigan. Do you?
I know they at least play Ohio State. He made it sound like they play both. I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, I didn't.
Uh,
I didn't look before.
yeah, they play both. They play at Ohio State in 3 weeks, and they play versus Michigan November 11 at Penn State.
Okay. All right. Well, the table is set.
Yeah,
So what they do with it is going to be interesting.
yep,
But just by the way they played against Iowa, I think they got a shot, both of them.
yeah, yeah. That was very impressive, and I mean, yeah. I always want to go. Have you ever been to Penn State to a game? I always want to go to a game there, especially like a whiteout night game.
No, unfortunately, haven't.
Yeah.
Um, there's always places you'd like to go and see games and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd like to, but I've never had the opportunity.
Maybe one of these days, let's get this podcast to blow up, and then they'll send us there, and we'll cover it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. Number 8, Washington putting up tons of points, 59-32 over Cal. The Huskies, 45 first half points. They're hitting on all cylinders, huh?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're to be reckoned with.
hmm Um, Also in that conference, Oregon blows out a statement win here for Oregon, blows out Colorado, 42-6, a humbling loss for Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes, and a statement win for Dan Lanning and Bo Nix in Oregon.
Yeah, this is going to sound cocky, but
hmm
I kind of expected it.
Well, especially without Travis Hunter, right?
Yeah, I just the whole rosters are it's unbalanced, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I mean, Oregon should have beaten them bad,
hmm
but I was surprised that Colorado's offense didn't do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at Oregon, I think the environment overwhelmed them, and no Travis Hunter. You remember how much Shador Sanders relied on Travis Hunter in that TCU game?
Yes.
And I think without that number one option, Um, that limited the offense, and they couldn't block Oregon. Shedeur was under pressure a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. They focused on Sanders,
Yeah,
and I think that was the key. He couldn't get relaxed at all, under
yep,
pressure all the time.
yep. At Oregon against a top 10 team in the country that's undefeated, it's easy for a quarterback to feel that pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you were playing the game, that your controller would be shaking like crazy.
Yes.
And Colorado gets an opportunity to bounce back, another tough matchup, but this time at home against USC. I want to see that offense bounce back and put forth a much better effort against a questionable USC defense here next weekend or this weekend.
Yeah. Now, again, we talked about the defense with USC,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think Colorado will score plenty of points this time.
yeah.
Although I'm sure they are going to watch this film real close and see how they rattled the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they can glean uh, some kind of uh, defense off of that. But I think that's going to be uh, that could be a shootout.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a shootout, and I'm kind of rooting for Colorado in this one. I think this at Oregon, like I said, the atmosphere it came up and caught them, and I don't think they were quite ready for it. I wish Travis Hunter was back. That's huge not having him. But I give Colorado a
Absolutely. Yeah.
chance. Yeah, I agree with you. But I give Colorado a chance at home against USC. I agree with you. Maybe it's a shootout, and you never know in a shootout. Ball bounces one way here or there. Maybe Colorado, if they can beat USC, imagine what that would do.
Yeah, you got to believe that Colorado is going to go back to the drawing board and find out how to prevent their quarterback from being harassed.
Yeah,
That's where
and
it's
maybe,
going to start, at the offensive line.
yep,
And if they can protect him, then he'll be able to distribute the ball and
hmm
they should be able to move it.
and rely on that running game a little bit more too. Dylan Edwards and those guys.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
offensive line, everything.
yeah, yep. And maybe that a loss like that will get is a good experience for Shador, and that maybe he'll be a little bit, better mentally ready for USC.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, I hope it's a good ball game too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that Colorado has overall guys again to
hmm
to beat USC.
Yeah. USC should be favored,
Yeah,
uh, but I find myself rooting for Colorado in this one. Let's see what the spread is. It's at noon, right? I'm not seeing it here, but
it's a,
oh,
it's
there
a
it
big
is.
spread. It's 21 points.
They're gonna cover. I'll go on this on record right now. Colorado's gonna cover.
I would think they would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I at least want it to be single digits. I give Colorado a decent shot. USC has not impressed me as much, nearly as much as Oregon or Washington. So I
Right.
give Colorado a chance in this game.
Yeah, I think they have a chance. I think you can say that. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to say slim or none this time.
How about Utah? Utah's really impressed me to stay undefeated without Cam Rising, to beat UCLA, which is a good team, and man, their defense looks really good as well.
Yes. Yeah.
14-7, low scoring, opening play pick six. Pretty fun game actually over there.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was kind of what was expected.
hmm And we'll see. Hopefully Cam Rising gets back soon, and once he does, that can be a big lift to this Utah team.
Yeah, I mean the spread for that game was Utah was favored by 6.
Okay, so yeah.
So I mean it turned out, I think the way everybody expected, uh,
Hmm.
overall.
It's interesting to see such a low-scoring game in the Pac-12.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I mean, both of these teams are capable of putting up points.
Yeah. So I always love a good low-scoring battle like that, defensive battle. Um, LSU survives Arkansas 34-31. At least they got the win there. Um, how about Alabama over Ole Miss 24-10? Good win for Alabama. And do you think it's the right decision going back to Jalen Milroe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. You?
Yeah, I agree with it. I like it. And I would ride with him the rest of the season and see how far they can go. But good win. Ole Miss is no slouch this year.
Yeah, but Ole Miss, they really disappointed me. I really thought they'd put up, 3 touchdowns or something. I
Yeah,
thought it would
better
be a
fight.
lot better game than it was.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about Oregon State loses to Washington State in Pullman? Big win for the Washington State Cougars, 38-35.
Yeah,
Another good Pac-12 team.
yeah, and I Oregon State was, obviously they were rated higher according to
Mhm.
AP
Yeah.
than Washington State. We had talked about Washington State some time ago.
Hmm.
I'm not really sure what they had, but Washington State's always been pretty good.
Yeah, and I like their
So,
quarterback, Cameron Ward, with 5 touchdowns.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Washington State was an underdog at home,
Yeah.
but by only like 3 points.
Hmm.
So, just as the 3 points got flipped the other way.
Yeah. And I tend to, home field advantage can sometimes do that, right? Flip it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. So good win for Washington State. Oklahoma beat Cincinnati 20-6. Take care of business there. North Carolina beats Pittsburgh 41-24. We were talking about Duke, blows out UConn 41-7. Based on what I've seen, Duke looks like a pretty good team this year.
I haven't actually seen them play.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, um, other than what I'm seeing in stats. Um, yeah, I got to agree that they seem to be, uh, don't seem to be a fluke,
Yeah.
but
And
it's still early, and it was UConn.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, UConn's not very good, but we're gonna get a very good idea of who Duke is this weekend.
Yes, we are, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's a great game. That's kind of a must-watch game. Notre Dame at Duke.
Yes,
Notre Dame wants to bounce back in a big way. They feel like they should have won at home against Ohio State. So
yeah,
what better way to bounce back than to beat an undefeated Duke, you know?
yes, yeah.
So
Like I said before, Notre Dame has the path,
yeah,
and they're going to play 3 rated teams in a
yeah,
row,
yeah,
and that's going to, if nothing else, the numbers are going to appreciate that.
yeah.
Uh, when you start knocking off, rated teams, that means something.
Mm-hmm. 7:30 p.m. on ABC, Notre Dame Duke. Who would have expected Notre Dame Duke to be ranked and as meaningful as it's going to be?
That's true.
That's it's cool though. I like it we've been talking about basketball schools all season and
Yes.
um Miami blows out Temple 41-7. Good win, Miami. Tennessee takes care of business 45-14 over UTSA. Florida over Charlotte 22-7. How about Syracuse stays undefeated? They beat Army 29-16. 4-0 Syracuse.
Yeah, I'm surprised too.
Yeah.
I just again, that's a team I haven't seen either, so
Yeah.
I don't really know. I can't make a judgment on what that means yet. Um, but it's a surprise to me that to see an undefeated Syracuse.
And a great matchup. We're going to know a lot more about Syracuse this weekend. Noon on ABC, Clemson at Syracuse.
Yes. Now,
That's a,
now, so right there, I'll say, well, that's their first loss.
yeah, it should be. It definitely should be. And
Yes.
Clemson should be upset. They're not going to feel like they're a two-loss team. So I think they're going to get the best Clemson performance in that game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think so too.
Yeah. How did you feel about your Auburn Tigers against Texas A&M? You said it was a good matchup to see how Auburn, looks against some of the better teams. What did you think of that game?
Not much.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were any good at all.
yeah,
Um, you got to give credit to A&M. I mean, they were prepared and they took it to them. I mean, it wasn't a blowout or anything like that, but
mm-hmm,
I think everybody expected Auburn to get more than 10 points
yeah,
and make it more of a game. But for them to lose that ball game, I don't think that anybody actually that knows anything about the game expected Auburn to win that game.
yeah. Um, what did you think? Did something happen with Peyton Thorne in that game? He didn't play very well, did he?
Well, they ended up playing all the quarterbacks, so kind of
Yeah,
tells you. Yeah.
yeah. I expected more out of him, but Michigan State hasn't exactly had the best quarterbacks since like Kirk Cousins and Connor Cook. So
Yeah.
maybe Peyton Thorne's not that, not as good as I gave him credit.
Well,
Um,
I actually started watching the game,
mm,
and it looked so bad that
yeah,
I just went to another game completely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just figured that they don't know what they're doing now.
Yeah, and hopefully they can bounce back. Well, it doesn't get any easier. Georgia at Auburn this weekend.
Oops. I don't think there's going to be a bounce back to you.
No, probably not.
However,
Yeah,
that is going to be Georgia's very first real game.
yeah.
Georgia's 4-0, right? And everybody says, "Oh, Georgia's the greatest ever. They're on top in the polls and everything."
Hmm.
Well, the numbers have got them listed way down the list, and it's because they've played. They're undefeated 4 games. They played UT Martin, Division II team,
Hmm.
and they won. And then they beat Ball State, who is 1-3,
Yep.
and then they beat South Carolina, who is 2-2,
Yep.
and then they beat UAB, that's 1-3.
Yep.
I mean, they've played absolutely nobody, and Auburn isn't going to give them really any trouble.
Yeah.
So they'll get some praise out of that win, but that's not any competition.
Yeah, and Georgia struggled against South Carolina, so who knows? Maybe they struggle
Yeah,
a little bit against Auburn, at least at first. We'll see. But Georgia better start waking up here soon because the competition's going to ramp up eventually.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I even noticed that not Georgia's not getting all the first place votes now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are some that's thinking, yeah, there's other teams that are playing better.
Yeah. And I stand behind my take. No way is Georgia three-peating. I have to see that to believe it. It hasn't happened since I believe the 1940s, and I don't think it starts this year. Like I don't see a three-peat happening. Give me the field. And I think Georgia, doesn't it make sense you play a cupcake schedule? That hurts you in the end. Like you might go undefeated, but when you finally play in the playoffs against real teams, playing a cupcake schedule will come back to bite you.
Absolutely. You got to be tough. When you get to the
Yeah.
playoffs, you better be
Yeah.
fired up and willing to fight and
Yeah.
be tested.
Yeah. So we'll see on that Georgia Auburn game this weekend. Um, Kentucky beats Vanderbilt. I believe Kentucky's still undefeated as well.
Yeah.
So good win for Kentucky. Good start to the season for them. And Kentucky plays Florida at Kentucky on Saturday. That's a good game. If Kentucky wins that, then we'll start taking Kentucky a little more seriously, won't we?
Well, absolutely, yes.
If they beat the Gators, yeah. So good on Kentucky. Keep winning. I love to see, these teams, these surprise teams staying undefeated. Marshall stays undefeated with a win over Virginia Tech. You called this one. I was hoping my Spartans could keep it close against Maryland, but Maryland beats them 31-9 and stays undefeated. And credit to Talia Tagovailoa, he's got Maryland, undefeated and looking pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that Maryland is a surprise. At least to me, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I don't think they're going to contend with the top three,
Yep.
but they're a decent team and a dangerous team.
Yeah, and he's got some work to do if he wants to stay on pace with his brother Tua in the NFL, throwing up 70 points against the Broncos. So
I wonder if there's a competition there, really.
that'd be pretty cool to hear about, And uh,
Yeah,
they play Indiana this weekend. Talia, I challenge you, put up 70 like your brother did.
yeah.
I took some heat from that from OJ McDuffie. I picked the Broncos to win that, so I took some heat on that one.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
No.
Louisville stays undefeated. Quarterback Jack Plummer throws for 5 touchdowns. Louisville beats Boston College 56-28. You think Louisville's any good? They're still undefeated.
I think they're kind of in the same boat as Maryland.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, Boston College really isn't that good.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's an expected win, I think, for them. Um, so, they've got still plenty to prove,
Yeah.
but
And
it's a good start.
it's a good start. And Friday night, we get a good look at Louisville at NC State, who is a
Yes,
good team.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good test for both teams.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm looking forward to that one. Give me Louisville to win that one in NC State.
I'll 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 take the other side.
Okay. Kansas, look at all these basketball schools still undefeated. Kansas takes down BYU 38-27. So Kansas, and then they're going at Texas. There's a true test for Kansas.
Yeah,
Give
absolutely,
me Texas in that one, but good start for Kansas.
absolutely. It's just it's still just odd talking about Kansas when it comes to football, but
Yeah,
they've played well. So you got they deserve a little nod.
yep,
But Um, we'll just see what they do with the Longhorns.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if the three basketball schools went down this weekend. Duke against Notre Dame, Kansas against Texas, and Kentucky against Florida.
All possible. Yes.
Um, so looking ahead to week 5, we already talked about Louisville, NC State. How about number 10 Utah at number 19 Oregon State? Oregon State coming off a loss. Utah should win it, but it's in Oregon State, and they're going to be upset about coming off a loss. Maybe this is a Oregon State win, a bounce back.
Well, I was surprised at uh, Oregon State is favored, right?
Let me look here real quick. They might be. It's Friday night. Oregon State is favored by 3.
And they just got knocked off by Washington State,
Yeah,
and Utah won.
yeah. Utah should take that as disrespect a little bit.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe Utah. Yeah, Utah should win that. Their defense has looked great, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I was surprised to see that that Utah was the underdog.
yeah. That's going to be another 2 great games Friday night. Louisville, NC State, and Utah, Oregon State.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to both of those. Let's see here. Saturday, Penn State at Northwestern. Don't look past North. I mean, Penn State's going to win that one. I'm not even going to go there.
no,
Um, USC, Colorado at noon. I'm really looking forward to that one. Go Buffs. Beat USC, but they got to prove it. They need to bounce back in a big way after only throwing up what 6 points last week. So,
yeah,
um, Florida at Kentucky. That's a real good matchup. Clemson at Syracuse. Georgia at Auburn. Michigan at Nebraska. Uh, any Michigan? You expect Michigan to blow out or at least win that at Nebraska against Matt Rule?
I don't know if it'd be a blowout, but I don't see. I'd be surprised if Michigan was to lose that game.
Yeah, me too. Um, Michigan seems to be not messing around, not playing with any of these teams. They seem to be playing their best football.
Yes.
Kansas at Texas, Indiana at Maryland. How about LSU at Ole Miss? Uh, you know, this has kind of become an afterthought game a little bit. Does Ole Miss bounce back against LSU? That's a tough one to predict right there.
Well, after their debacle against the Tide,
Well, yeah,
I don't give them any hope at all.
yeah,
I don't see LSU having any trouble with them actually.
yeah. LSU seems like the better team.
Yeah,
Um,
they're only favored by 2.5.
wow, that's crazy.
It's like really, is it just because they're at Ole Miss? I mean, I don't think that field is that big of an advantage.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Alabama at Mississippi State. Um, you never know, but give me Alabama. And, and then give me your thoughts for Notre Dame at Duke. You have to be excited for this matchup. You're probably going to be watching this game closely, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Um, Again, I don't know anything about Duke, so I don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Notre Dame, I think you're right. They're going to be fired up
Yeah,
and they're going to be coached up and they're going to be ready to play, even though it's an away game.
yeah,
Although Duke's going to be sky high too.
yeah.
So,
And Duke's undefeated. They're feeling themselves, but I think they're going to get a Notre Dame that comes in there that they're not really ready for, I think Notre Dame better. That's what I'm gonna say. Notre Dame better show up of all the games this season to show up. That's the game. Coming off a heartbreaking loss, they need to go in there with a statement win and
Yeah, yeah,
be like, this basketball school doesn't belong on the same field as us. You know what I mean? Like that needs to be their attitude going in there.
yeah. I I think both teams will be well prepared and ready, but God, again, I don't think that Duke's their guys. I don't think that you put their guys side by side with Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I don't see it fair.
yeah. And Notre Dame's got playoff expectations. I don't think anybody has Duke making the playoffs.
Right.
So, you know, bounce back, get a statement win, and then you'll be feeling much better about yourself going into that USC game.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, I think Iowa probably, Iowa after getting embarrassed against Penn State, Iowa's going to embarrass Michigan State on Saturday night.
I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Yeah. Washington at Arizona. You think there's any chance Arizona can give? They're 3-1. Any chance they can give Washington a battle in Tucson?
I suppose they could.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it to be a problem. I think that Washington should win it by a couple of touchdowns. Actually,
Yeah, I've got this like Washington's doing great, but in the back of my head, I always go back to the old Washington. Washington, to me, I can't take them seriously, and so they have to keep proving it to me. They need to win the Pac-12 in order for me to give them any credit, and for some reason, mentally.
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's like I go back to Jake Browning and Jake Locker and these different Washington teams. I never believed in them. Um, but let's look at your numbers here. The numbers are finally starting to take some form here with the top teams. Like I like this top 10 here.
Yeah, I was interested to see how that was going to work out. It makes sense to me.
Yeah,
You know, I did a little check in here. I already mentioned what Georgia has played, so that's why they're way down there. What are they?
23.
20, 20 no, they're 28.
Oh, is this
Isn't that right?
let's see. After week 4 is where we're at, right?
Yeah, after week 4.
I have them 23.
Yes, okay, that's right.
Yeah, at 4-0. So they're slowly moving up, but not very fast.
Right. As long as they keep winning, they'll keep moving up.
Yeah,
But their problem is they're not playing anybody to get any points according to the numbers.
yeah, you're not gonna move up very high beating UAB.
Exactly. So and Auburn's not going to give them a lot of points.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, but then looking at the numbers, then why does the number have Texas on top? They're 4-0, right?
Mm-hmm. That
And so why are they on top? And well, it's because they beat first of all, they beat Rice. They're a 2-2 record. They
mm-hmm.
beat Alabama, now it's 3-1.
Yeah.
Beat Wyoming, who is 3-1.
Yeah.
And of course they beat Baylor, which is not any good at 1-3. But they beaten two teams that are 3-1.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Bama in Tuscaloosa, is impressive.
Yeah,
And
and then you look at Florida State. They beat LSU and they beat Clemson.
yeah.
So those two big quality wins.
And Michigan, Ohio State being top five like that makes is nice to see because it falls in line with the coaches and the AP.
Yeah, well, that was a big reward for Ohio State. I
Yeah.
mean, they got their points fairly given to them.
And I think in real life, in the public perception too, you go into South Bend and win. Suddenly, in a lot of people's eyes, oh, we got to take Ohio State seriously now.
Yes, right.
There was a lot of questions about Kyle McCord, but you go on the road and win a top 10 like that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, the only one that really stands out, the difference wise from the polls and the numbers, is USC.
hmm
They're 21.
yeah,
And I kind of went, wow, I mean, are they really that bad or what? Well, they beat Jose State.
hmm
It's a 1-4 team.
hmm
They beat Nevada, which is a 0-4 team.
yeah,
They beat Stanford, which is a 1-3 team.
yeah,
And they beat Arizona State,
which isn't a
who
very good team
are
either.
1-3. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why they're way down there. They ain't played anybody, even though they're
Yeah.
undefeated. Just because you think they're good, they haven't done anything to earn any respect.
Yeah, and their
So
next
this next game is key.
yeah, their next two games will do a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they happen to handle those two games, they'll shoot right up.
Yeah, they'll be top 5 if they take care of business like that or in the
Very likely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the top 10 on here looks great. Texas, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington should be up there. Penn State has looked great. Oklahoma, which to their credit, Oklahoma's taking care of business.
Absolutely.
Washington State with a big win. North Carolina, I mean, they've taken care of business, and Oregon as well. So it makes a lot of sense. Um, the one that stands out to me is 15 Liberty.
Yeah, well, I didn't go in and look to see who they beat, but they evidently have beaten teams that are at least
Decent. Yeah.
decent teams. They're not, not these little crummy little teams or Division two teams.
Yeah.
So they got credit for it.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. No, this is about the time of year it starts to take shape, and I think it's a little bit ahead of schedule this year. Take, looking like it should, and then we'll see. It's from now on, I think it's going to look great the rest of the year. Like, it's going to be very interesting to follow the numbers the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think it will create a little more conversation in the next 2 weeks.
hmm So many good games coming up, so many high profile matchups. It's going to be a lot of fun to keep an eye on this.
Yeah,
Um,
like I said, the other, if anybody's listening to this that's a USC or a Georgia fan,
hmm
um, you just got to make sure you get your team to win some games, and then you'll
hmm
you'll see them move up. But it's going to take some work for them to get up in the top 10.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to play their conference, and the SEC is very tough. So you get into conference
Yeah,
play, that's most important anyway. Ask any fan to take care of your
right.
conference wins. So they take care of business there, they'll shoot right up.
Yep.
Um, yeah, at the bar on Saturday night, I got a couple Ohio State fans to subscribe to the podcast. So
Yeah,
we got some Buckeyes probably listening.
that's all right. I mean,
Yeah,
they're getting noticed.
yeah.
They
No.
got rewarded for that lucky last play. I mean, if you're going to play 11 against 10, you should win.
Absolutely.
So Ohio State people ought to just be happy with what they got.
That's so frustrating as a fan. It's a game of inches, right? And there's it's such a long game, and for it to come down to the final play and to feel like we only had 10 players on the field, as a fan, it's like, how does coaching allow that? How does all the preparation all week, all off season to this point, to the biggest game, come down to that? And they have 10 players on the field. That's a Chicago Bears move. You know what I mean? Like that, that's when I get so furious. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, I know that, but the Ohio State people, all I can say to them is they took advantage of the situation and won the game.
Yeah. And
So kudos.
they don't care. That's a huge win for them.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Now they
like,
got to take care of business the rest of the season.
yeah, yep. You're going to have to prove it against Penn State and Michigan. If you can do that, then playoffs.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
I'm loving it. We're getting into the heart of the season, and it's starting to become so much fun from here on out.
yeah. And like I said, we just like last week. This next week's going to be just as fun
Yeah,
because we got a lot of real good games again. Now,
yep.
Ohio State doesn't play
Okay,
this weekend. Florida State doesn't play this weekend.
yep.
North Carolina doesn't play. Washington State doesn't play.
Okay,
And Miami doesn't play.
yeah.
So they're safe where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But there could still be some movement because you still have some contests uh, that's going to move some teams up or down.
Yeah, yep. This week and then next week, so
Yes,
many
next
good
week's the
good
same
games.
way.
Yeah. Um, how are you feeling as of right now? I mean, let's say Notre Dame takes care of business like we expect them to do and beats Duke. How are you feeling about that Notre Dame USC matchup?
Well, I felt that regardless of how the season goes, that
Mm-hmm.
the Notre Dame USC game um, is it actually is. I think it's more winnable by Notre Dame
Yeah.
because of the both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. More
Um,
complete team.
yes,
Yep.
I really do. I really do think that. So, um, if it wasn't for the concern about USC's defense, I would say that's a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I don't think it is.
Yeah, and this is why I'm going to be watching Colorado USC closely too, is because this is a good opportunity to see USC's defense. This is a good offense in Colorado. I know they didn't look good last week, but I expect them to bounce back. And we were just 2 weeks ago talking about Shador Sanders for Heisman. Like, this team can put up points. You got to give Oregon credit for their defense, but I expect Colorado to put up. Right now I expect Colorado to put up 30 plus against USC. Now maybe Travis Hunter is a bigger loss than I'm expecting, but they've got weapons still. They've got Dylan Edwards. They've got receivers. That Horn is a good receiver. They got a couple others. Um, Shador is a good quarterback. Like, I think he was overwhelmed against Oregon. This time they're at home. I give Colorado a decent shot. I think this game is going to be interesting. And if USC takes care of business and wins handedly, then we're going to give USC more credit, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, you got to remember that um, Oregon slapped them around real good.
Mm-hmm.
And if USC doesn't slap them around real good, then
Yeah.
you're going to have to say that Oregon's going to be the one favorite in the Pac-12
Yeah,
fairly,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, you're comparing, common opponents.
yeah. And
So
Washington
I mean,
looked great.
so it's important that USC get out there and put these guys away, or else
That,
everybody's going to say,
and that's a trap game, honestly, because I think
yeah,
USC can feel pressure. They look at what Oregon did and said, we need to do the same thing. And what happens if you start slow? What happens if Caleb throws a pick or you allow Colorado to get up early, you know?
yeah,
So it's a trap game for sure.
yes, it is.
And and I think Notre Dame losing to Ohio State can benefit them. Instead of them looking past Duke and looking ahead to USC, now all of a sudden Notre Dame's pissed off. Notre Dame's mad, and they want to go make a statement out of the Duke game and carry that positive momentum into the USC game.
Yeah, that it could all work that way. The emotions that carry in from game to game.
Yeah,
I mean, you can look bad one game, and the next game you're just giant killers.
yep,
The whole attitude changes.
yeah. And you say it all the time. With kids, it's that's more of a factor than with pros.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
So
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Oregon won by 36 points,
mm-hmm.
and USC is favored by 21 and a half.
Yeah.
So we're going to see some comparison there.
Yep.
So for you guys out there with USC in mind, you better contact them and let them know that we're watching them.
Yeah, and I'm also interested to see how Colorado looks. Like
Yeah,
Colorado's better than that. They're better than a 42-6 loss. At Oregon's a tough environment, and maybe
yeah,
Oregon's really good. Um, Based on what I was riding the Colorado hype up until that game. I was disappointed in the outcome. I think they're a better team than that, and I think we'll see that on Saturday when they're at home in their own environment against USC. I expect them to bounce back. I think they cover. I think it's a one-score game, and who knows, you know?
yeah. I tend to agree with you there. Um,
Hmm.
I think they'll be good competition. USC should win. It's the same old story.
And I think Dion is going to have his son hyped up. He's like, "Look, you want your Heisman matchup? You want to get on the Heisman radar for real? Go outduel Caleb Williams."
Beat the other Heisman guy. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah. It's
I'm
good.
getting myself excited right now.
Yeah. It's a. I think it's a worth watching game.
Yeah, that one, Notre Dame Duke is a must watch. You know, if if Notre Dame needs to beat up Duke. Notre Dame needs to knock them out and then carry positive momentum into USC. And if USC loses to Colorado, I mean USC's vulnerable. And what happens if USC loses two in a row or wins a close game against Colorado and then trips up against Notre Dame? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're getting
we're
into
gonna
some pretty good territory, aren't we?
yeah we're gonna
I
find
mean,
out a lot.
I mean, even the Texas Kansas game is going to be interesting,
Yep.
and then the Utah uh, Oregon State. There's some really good. It's just like last week.
Yeah. Yep. And then Louisville, NC State. I love a good Friday night game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. But great content as always, Dean. And looking forward to having you back on next week.
Yeah, this is just a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It goes by quickly, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. But
I
I
mean,
mean, it does absolutely. But I'm excited. Like it's going by quick, but at the same time, I want Saturday to be here tomorrow. You know.
it's weird, isn't it? I feel the same way. Yes. I'm
Yeah,
always excited when it gets to be Friday night.
exactly. Weekend full of football. Can't beat it.
Yes,
So,
can't. I agree.
well, appreciate you coming
Well,
on. Everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. You know, our subscribers are going up. Our following is going up. We're gonna have player interviews. Check out the OJ McDuffie interview that we did last night. And we're anticipating having another big profile interview next week. So appreciate all the support. Stay tuned and have a great week, guys. Thanks, Dean. And
you betcha.
can't wait to talk next week.
All
Peace out,
right.
everybody.